Hello everybody, I'm going to have a tutorial here on how to use Artec Studio 9 with an Eva scanner. And what I want to start off by doing this is first I'm going to do at least 3 scans, if not maybe 4, but usually 3, and try to get as much data as I can in those first 3 scans. And then what I'm going to do from that point on, I'm going to go through and we're going to edit all of the artifacts or the extra artifacts that's in the drawing itself. We're going to remove those, and then we're going to continue on from that point to align the scans individually. And once we have all the scans aligned, we're going to run a utility on there called Global Registration. And I'm going to go over with different types of registration, and when they come up, I also want to go through how to fill in holes and edges. I also want to go through a little bit of measures. And I want to talk just a smidge about doing texturing as well. And this is all kind of a basic tutorial and to get you started in using Artec Studio and the Eva scanner. And as well, same techniques can be used to use the spider. Alright, let's go ahead and get started, and let's start scanning one of our objects here. As you can see in the preview here, I'm scanning a DJI Phantom Quadcopter. And let's go ahead and start scanning here a little bit. And you might notice that it might be a tad bit little slow due to the fact that I am recording in Camtasia Studio at the same time. I kind of want to get as much details as I can here. And I might have to move. Might look a little slow here. Let's get a little bit more of a scan up here as well. Here as well. And notice that when I'm scanning, I'm keeping it in between the ranges of the high-end ranges here. And those particular spots, if you notice where you want to kind of scan, let's go into preview here again, you want to kind of keep it in between these areas here, about 640, well actually you can do it between 520 millimeters to 880 millimeters, but the sweet spot you see here is between 760 millimeters to 640 millimeters. So now that I did a scan on that one side, I need to move over here and do the other side of the quadcopter here. Let's go ahead and start on an area that we haven't scanned yet. And then you'll notice once I get something in the view here, I might need to pull it back just a little bit just to make sure I'm getting the image. And I'm going to come around here and scan. Come down a little bit. Still trying to keep it within that scanning range. And what I'm doing all at the same time here is I'm watching the screen at the same time trying to keep it into that spot between those two areas. And I lost registration, so I'm going to stop it right there. And now what I want to do is I'm going to turn it upside down, and I want to scan. Looks like I moved one of the rotor blades here, so that might make it a little bit more difficult later on for registration, but let's go ahead and try this anyways. I'm going to start from the front here so I can get the bottom of it, and you guys can see this here really quick. Alright, and I'm going to start scanning here at this point, and I'm going to come over the top of it as well. Try to get as much as I can here in this scene without moving too fast to lose registration. Looking good so far. Let's go around here. Looks like I'm getting it here. Yeah, let me move around here a little bit. Yeah, I'm still kind of keeping it in a good spot here. Now I know there's a big giant battery hole back here that I need to get. It's kind of difficult where it's at here. May have lost, yeah, I lost registration on it here. I'm going to stop right at that point. You know what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and start showing how to do the alignment with these. Okay, so that might be a basic enough scans, or at least 3 scans here that we can kind of demonstrate how to use the software basically and kind of move on from this point. Alright, so as you notice that once I go through this, once I start through this, this is actually going to do fine registration kind of automatically. So unless you cancel the process, as soon as I click on the edit button, it's going to come up. As soon as I click on it, if you notice down here on the bottom, it's doing fine registration for the one scan that's selected. So if you ever make that mistake, you want to make sure that you're selecting all three of them. Well, it actually looks like all three of them actually went through here. Let me make sure. It looks like it registered them here. Okay, so they kind of look kind of garbled together here, if you notice, looking at them. It doesn't look like much, but what we're going to have to do is we want to make this process as easy as possible. So to do that, we want to go to Editor, and we want to select just one of them at a time to be able to edit it. Then we kind of got somewhat of a scan here, so it's not actually complete, but this is going to be the process on how we can kind of use some of the tools to get things ready to be moved around. So let's go ahead and go to Eraser, using the Eraser tool. And as you'll note, there's a little bit of a ledger in here on how to collect or how to select different things, but I'm going to go ahead and show you. So we have the 2D selection. So the 2D selection is set up, and the only way that it becomes active is if you hit the Control key. And you're going to notice that you'll see an object here. So you can actually, you can select pretty much anything that you want in this area. So if you notice that you can kind of grab everything that's on the screen here. Hang on just a second. Alright, we're back here. I just needed to go through and get a different mouse, and it is detecting here. So what I wanted to do here is I wanted to select, by doing the 2D selection, holding down the Control key while holding the left mouse button. Now I can actually change the size of this. Now, the reason why mine's not working here, hang on just a sec. Alright, let me go ahead and continue here. Alright, so let's go ahead and select, and I can pretty much select in here. And you notice kind of the way the size of this is that when you select it, it's going to take too long to get every bit of that area. So when I click erase, I actually erase that area. But there's a little easier tool when you have such a large selection to do, which is called the Cutoff Plane Selection. Hold down the Control key again, and then select an area on the object, and you'll notice what it does here is it actually brings the whole thing up. Now, by the way, what I'm doing to move this object is I'm holding down the left mouse button, and then I'm moving the mouse to be able to rotate this around to be able to see it. So you notice that it actually highlights all the area that's flat on that one plane. So you can erase a lot of it all in kind of one go, which makes your life a little bit easier, a little bit quicker to do this. So I want to actually move the whole object around. So if I'm moving this around, this is some of the basic movements. So if I want to move the object around and be able to kind of manipulate it, I want to hold the left and the right mouse button at the same time and then move the object around. Again, so the first one is hold the left mouse button and then rotate the object around its own axis. Left and right mouse button, and I can move the whole object around to be able to find a different view, to be able to erase it a little bit better, whichever way works best. Alright, let's try the Cutoff Plane Selection again. I'm going to hold down the Control key again, and I'm going to select this area and trying to get these here. And erase again. And I think I'm going to try it one more time. Hold down the Control key again and select an area that you'd like to remove, and erase. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move the object again by holding the left and the right mouse button. Then I'm going to hold down just the left mouse button, and I'm kind of manipulating this in a way so I can see all of the artifacts that I want to get rid of in this scene. So let's go ahead and get rid of these. So let's use the 2D selection again. And I'm going to go ahead and highlight these areas here. And it looks like I'm getting these pretty easily. Alright, and let's erase those. Doesn't look like I see too much other ones other than what I need to rescan again. Alright, that looks decent. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next scan. Turn off the other one. Alright, looks like we got a little bit more detail in there. Now, some of the things that you need to make sure of too, that when you do your first scans, you want to try to have a little bit of overlapping information. on each one of the scans, and that's to be able to make the process of doing alignment later much easier, and sometimes makes it possible to do alignment. Sometimes they'll have, if you have not enough information that's overlapping, you may have some maybe very difficult to get it to align, and it just kind of makes your job a lot easier when you have it a little bit of overlapping on it. So we can look at this object here again, and what I want to do is I want to go back to the eraser again, and let's do the cutoff plane selection, and let's select an area and try to get the most we can. And I got quite a bit of it in one go there, which is kind of nice. That kind of was a quick process to do that. So let's go ahead and go back to the eraser, and let's select the rectangular selection. So rectangular selection can be, and they're pretty much straightforward. It's basically making a box, and you can select what you need like this, get rid of it, and then I can erase it. And let's see, I can do a little bit. Now this looks like the leg to it, which I don't want to get rid of that. And pretty much everything else that's in this one I want to keep. It looks to me now, the way I'm zooming in on this, by the way, is holding down the right mouse button and moving the mouse forward or back. And that's allowing me to move in. Again, left and right mouse button to move the object on its axis, and then right click and then move the mouse forward and back to zoom in. And then again, holding left to be able to rotate the object, as you notice here. And it looks like pretty much those are just the artifacts from trying to scan. So I'm going to go ahead and keep those on there. I might need to get the rotor blades a little bit later on to be able to finish the scan. Looks pretty good, so I'm going to go on to the next one. Let's turn that one off by selecting the eye or unselecting the eye. Turn it on for view. And here's where I turned the quadcopter upside down. So I need to watch this. And you notice that there's some artifacts around each one of these rotor blades. Let's go ahead and select eraser, and let's select the 2D cutoff plane again. Hold down the control key and left click once. We removed quite a bit of an area there, which is quite nice. Hold down and click the eraser key again and select the cutoff plane selection tool again. And I'm getting quite a bit of them here. Let's do it one more time. And then erase. Looks like I've gotten quite a bit of them off. I'm going to go ahead and use the eraser. The 2D, actually, you know what? Let's use the rectangular selection tool. Holding down the control key again, left mouse button and drawing a box around one of the objects here. Let's get rid of it. Let's use it again. And erase that one as well. Looks like there's some artifacts in here we can get rid of as well. Let's get rid of those. Erase. Now select the eraser again. Let's get these two. So you got a little bit of the rotor blade there, which is going to hurt it. Alright, left mouse button. Let's take a look at some other areas on here. Remember again, it is the bottom of it again. Okay, alright. It looks like we've kind of went through the eraser tool. Now, the 3D selection tool. Okay, the 3D selection tool can do some surfaces that are going to be very hard to get to in some cases when they're not two-dimensional. You just want a certain area. So by selecting the 3D selection tool and holding down the control key, you can actually select an area. Now the selection tool is quite big. Hang on here. So let me undo that, or actually cancel this option. Alright, it looks decent here. Hang on just a second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. I try to use a mouse that I have that doesn't have a middle scroll button, because you're supposed to be able to hit control and you can change the size of the scroll button. So yeah, it looks like my mouse doesn't do, the middle mouse button doesn't have a scroll wheel on it, but if you have a mouse with a third button on it, has a scroll wheel, you can actually change the size of the selection tool. So if I was to select, say, an area like this, and I was like, oh, look, I got that selected, I need to remove that. There's another way of doing it as well. Instead of just canceling it or undoing, you can hold down Control, Alt, And then I can reselect that area again and then get rid of this selection that I made. You see that? Oh, look, there's one little spot here that's been selected too. So just, I mean, that's another easy way to do it as well. 3D selection tool as well, the same. If you'll notice that the object is extremely big, and like I said, I don't have a scroll or a middle scroll mouse. I'll have to do that on the next tutorial. Alright, so now we have everything lined up the way that we want. And what you want to go through and do now is we want to go to Tools, and we want to do Global Registration for all 3 scans. We want to go through all of them now. This can actually clean up some of the problems with some of the scans because of movements or double imaging. There's a few other things, but global registration is good to do for all of them at this point. So there are some values in global registration that you can change, but generally these are the default values that you do not change, 50 and 100%. There are circumstances maybe later on after you've got into scanning a little bit more that you can do it, but texture and geometry is going to take a little bit longer. Geometry is going to be shorter. It's not going to be as heavy on the system. But for this instance, for what I'm doing here, I'm going to do both, and let's go ahead and apply. And we're going through, you notice it's going through and stepping through doing the global registration. And I'm going to pause it in between this and come back to you when it's finished. Okay, it finished scanning. So there's a couple of things that come to mind that you need to know about. It kind of is going to depend on how much RAM is in your computer, how fast it is, how powerful your video card is, on how long global registration is going to take. It is going to take a little while, and sometimes it can take quite a long time depending on how many scans that you have done. You know, the more complexity of the object is going to take a lot longer in a processing time of global registration. So just to be aware that, you know, it may take a little while, that this is normal for it to take some time depending on how large the scans are. So, you know, you might want to sit back, go drink some coffee, come back, take a break, and look at it again. So now we've run our global registration. Now what I would like to do, wow, I just realized that I did global registration. I needed to do the alignment first. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with this, since this is a tutorial to see how much I know on it anyways, and something to improve on. So I'm going to start with the alignment here. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on that. And it looks like this is one of our scans here. So I'm going to try to align it with one of our other scans here. I'm going to kind of move this out of the way, holding down Control. Hold down Shift. Now I can rotate one scan, hold down Shift and left mouse button. And let's see if I can find any identifiable marks there. Now sometimes trying to view it by texture alone is kind of not good, so it's kind of a little bit better to change the color of the scan. So I'm going to go to the actual first box here, or the third box here, and select Scan Color. And that way I can possibly see a little bit better resolution on it. And just from the way that this looks, now I might be able to align these, but I can just tell right off the bat that I might need a bit more information, or scan information, to make these scans work correctly. So let's see what the other one looks like. And this is the bottom of it. So let's go ahead and go to the top one here. I am going to try to attempt to make an alignment on this. However, I do want to stress that it does not look... It's a little tough to tell because I can see that there's no information here on the top. I definitely got some more scanning to do, that's for certain. Let's see if this looks right in this direction. Turn it around here. Yeah, well, you can actually see the difficulty in trying to scan the object because of not enough information that's being scanned. So this is definitely going to require me to scan more of the object, but to be honest with you, it's kind of hard to make out here. Let me look at the texture and see if I can kind of figure it out. Well, I can see that this doesn't have any blue rings on this end, so I'm certain that this at least has to be to this function here. So we'll do... Yeah, this is probably how it's going to go, about right here. that is probably the correct orientation here for the object, but it looks like, I don't know, I could be wrong here. It looks like that there's no blue here. What I mean by that is it's one of the two. Look, I can actually see the bottom object here, and it kind of looks like, ooh, this is a tough call. So, let me bring it up here. I may have just picked an extremely difficult object to try to do for the first scan. And it kind of looks that way too. Well, let's try to do an alignment here and see if it'll align. This is definitely going to be a drop in the bucket to figure out if this is actually going to work here. So let's kind of do an alignment. So what I did here is I selected new pair, and I want to try to match. It doesn't have to be an exact, but just close enough to the area that it's supposed to be in the other object. And you want to be able to do at least a minimum of 3 different contact points on here. Let's see if it'll align. And we can also enable texture align and see if this will also assist in it. Let's see if it'll align. Nope, it has a problem with it. So I'm definitely looking at needing to do some more scans with it. So let's go back here real quick and let's go to the editor. Sorry about that. I'm going to cancel where I'm at right now. And let's go ahead and let's get some more scans in here. See if we can fix this up. Go ahead and connect the Eva scanner back. Alright, let's try again here. Let's get some more scanning here. I might have to slow it down a bit. Over from the top. And let's do a little bit on the side here as well. A little bit of overlapping information. And notice that I'm trying to keep it in between 520 millimeters to 800 millimeters. So let's kind of bring it around here. See what we can capture here. And let's kind of come around here. Let's do the front a little bit more. And you want to kind of keep it in there, so keep watching the screen while you're doing the scans. And I'm just trying to get everything from all angles in here. And it's a little bit slow because I'm also using a video recording software at the same time to do this. So this is kind of expected. Alright. That scan was a little bit better. I'm going to take the object and I'm going to turn it around on the point where I'm at, where it was originally. Let's scan the backside here and see what we can get with it. Alright. And I noticed that there's a battery hole that's in there. It's going to be a little tough to get, but you just need to get it from all angles. Do it again here. Well, I lost registration on that one, so I lost some information I didn't want to, so let's try to do another scan here really quick. And we'll do a little bit from the side here. Looks like I lost registration momentarily there. Let's see if that scan offers up any more resolution here. See if we got anything useful here. Definitely lost some registration. You notice that there's like double images inside of it. So let's kind of go through and edit what we can here. Alright. Looks like it might be a tad bit more useful. Let's go to the eraser again as we've done before. And let's do the cutoff plane selection tool. As much as we can in one go there. Let's select another one. And let's go to another one here. Select it again. Erase. And as in the previous part of this tutorial, I've actually shown how to do this, where you're selecting the tool and how to move the mouse again. Let's go back in here. Let's select the subject here. Try to get as much as we can. I think I'm going to get this from here. And there's quite a bit. Pretty much gotten off there. I'm going to try this one little area right here. There you go. Now I'm going to go to the 2D selection tool. Actually, you know what? Since this area is kind of big, I'm going to use the rectangular selection tool. Get that. Let's select get these. I'm going to get this one over here as well. Oh, looks like I'm selecting part of the quadcopter there. Get as many little artifacts as I can here. Alright, there's a big one back there. Let's do the rectangular selection tool again. And one last time. This skin looks a lot better. Looks like there's a little bit more information, although it's not perfect. You know, the underside doesn't have any information to it, but at least it might be a start compared to what I have. This one is definitely not a whole lot of information with it. I'm going to do the cutoff plane selection tool here on this one as well. Oops. I'm going to do the cutoff plane selection tool. Do one more time here. Now let's go ahead and use the 2D selection tool and get rid of this little tiny artifacts. I don't want to get rid of that, so what I want to do is I want to hit Control Alt and let's unselect that area. Oh, look, there's some artifacts out here in the middle of no man's land. Let's erase those. Let's see a little flat area. Let's try the cutoff plane selection tool on this area right here. You can see I got most of it, but I didn't get all of it. Alright, you can see that it lost a little bit of registration here. See, it has dual quadcopter rotor blades. It's kind of tough because those things are very thin, and it's going to be quite a job to be able to try to get those to actually show up. So, although, you know, with a little bit of practice, you can get it to work. Alright, and let's go ahead. I'm going to get this one little last area with the 2D selection tool. Let's get this right here. Alright, then let's go to one of the last scans here. Let's see if this is going to give me enough information now to be able to do this. This is some areas I didn't select. I'm going to go ahead and get these again. Let's use the rectangular selection tool and get this little area and this one. And I see some artifacts up here in the sky. I think I want that one to be, yeah, it's part of the rotor blade. See, this one didn't lose tracking. See how the rotor blades aren't too badly messed up? Alright, now let's go ahead and go to the alignment and let's see what we can do in here. Let's turn all of these on. And let's go to our alignment tool. And let's see if we got anything that we can try to align to that. Oh, actually, before I do this, I'm going to go ahead and go to the selection tool up here and change it to scan color. And let's kind of move these objects around. So I'm holding down shift in the left and right mouse button. Let's go to another in here. I'm going to get kind of out of the view so I can tell which direction they go. Now I can tell from over here that the camera is pointing this direction, so this is one that looks like I can align from the top view. I'm going to hold down shift and left mouse button and I'm going to rotate this one around a little bit. You know, it's not necessary, you know, to do this every time, but I've just found that it makes it a little bit easier to get it to work. So it looks like I'll have to align this from the top. Look at it here. Yeah, so let's go ahead and create a new pair for alignment. Let's go ahead and leave enable texture alignment. Let's actually create one here. So let's create here. This is roughly the same point here. Roughly the same point about right here. And let's do one about in the middle. And let's kind of do one on here on the side. So this one should be about right here. Alright, let's go ahead and try to align the meshes. And it did align. And so we got our first alignment there. Okay? So this is the process you need to go through to be able to create all of these. Let's go through here a little bit more. Let's go to another one here. And you notice that now that that one's a double selected one, that's what you want to do because you want to keep them all aligned together. So you want to make sure you double click and it turns it into one of those that's a stationary one. Double click again to turn it off. So the green is what the current selection is. Let's go ahead and move this alignment out of here real quick. This one definitely, if this one's going to work, it's definitely going to turn this way. Alright, so let's look at this. Let's try to do this scan as well. And this one's definitely a little bit harder to see. It could be... Yeah, this one definitely... It's going to make life extremely fun. Let's see here. Yep, that one I'm going to have to come back to. But this one is definitely an upside down portion of the scan, which it looks like we have enough of this that it possibly would work. So I'm going to kind of move this one off to the side. Let's go to another one here and try it out. This one is there's very little information in that one. Very little one in this one as well. Let's see what we can get out of one of these here. This is like the back of the battery, so I can just tell this right here because I'm looking at the object. So I'm going to try to swing this one around here. This is the back side of it. If we can get a little bit of information about this one. Yeah, this looks like it's possible. Hang on here. Yeah. Alright, so we want to do 3 points to try to do alignment. There is not much to that scan, so I do apologize for that, but it is kind of a difficult scan. So I'm going to go ahead and try an alignment here, a new pair. Let's grab some areas. It doesn't have to be exact again, as I was telling you before. It's this area is right here. And since that's 3 points, let's see if we can maybe get one more point. Maybe one right here, I think. Let's see if we can get it to align. Nope, Got a failure on that one. Let's give it a try again. Oh, we did get it to align. Alright, good. Kind of getting there slowly but surely, but there is definitely some more to do with this. Okay. Alright, let's try one of the other scans here and see if we can get one of those close enough. It's just kind of hard to tell if this is the front view. This does look like the front view of the camera. So what I'm going to do here, let's do another pair and let's align this up from here to here. About right here. Here's the center portion of it. And I believe this rotor blade is this rotor blade over here. Let's try an alignment. Oh yeah, good, it did align. Not a problem. So we're kind of building it up here. We're getting that model in here. Let's go to one of the other scans here. This is definitely the upside down portion of the scan. So let's bring this one around here. And again, I'm holding down the left mouse button to rotate and move the mouse. And then I'm holding down the shift button, the left and the right mouse button to move the object, as you can see. So again, shift, left mouse button, and hold, and then I can rotate it, and then add the right mouse button and hold, and then I can just move it anywhere around. I can also change the axis of where it's rotating by double clicking in the center of the object, and that changes the rotational axis point from right there. So makes your life a little bit easier. So I'm going to swing this thing around and turn it upside down here. And then I'm going to move it down. Then I want to try to align this, and that's good because look, I have the camera alignment here, so I have some overlapping information. You can see here from the bottom to the eyepiece, and I have something here from this piece, or actually the lens cover is what I meant by eyepiece. So you can see I can see something here, so it might be just enough to align it because it looks like, let's try a new alignment point from here to here, from the center of this to here. And it looks like we got a little bit of side information, which is awesome. We can do this one from here to right here. And let's try to align it. And it did. Awesome. Not perfect, but you know, for just a few scans, we've kind of gotten something that's pretty good here. I'm going to double click here in the center to change my rotational point here. Alright, this is looking good so far. Looks like we got a little bit of double imagery there on the rotor blades. And we're going to have to do global registration on this once we're done with all the alignments. Okay, and let's do the very last one here. Let's see what we can get out of this. Where could that one? There is hardly nothing to that scan, as you can see. And it looks like the rotor blades have moved on different scans too. So what that's done is since I turned it over, it actually scanned differently. So it's not too bad. So let's go ahead and see if I can make any use of this scan, because looks very difficult to try to find. Let's try turning the texture back on, see if I can determine. Well, I can see a blue line here, so this might be it. I'm gonna, just for my preference, let's see if I can turn it around this way. Does this kind of look like it? So apparently there's one with a vent in the front, and I don't see that. Looks like a vent right there in the front. But there is a vent on the side, so I can see that right there. So this vent, so I think that this belongs over in this direction. So let me show you here. Alright, see look, I can see this vent right here. There's a vent right here, and then there's a blue mark. So we might have enough to be able to do some alignment here. So let's go ahead and click a new pair again. Let's highlight this ring here. And let's highlight this one here. And let's pick the side of this vent right here. That might be enough to do it. Let's just do one more right here on the top. And right there, that should do it. Let's give it a try to alignment on it. And it did align it. Looks like it put it in there. So now we've got all the scans. I mean, it's nowhere near complete. But again, this is a basic tutorial to at least get you going on it. I'm going to have to practice these skills a little bit better to get a little bit better modeling here as well. But yeah, it's decent for what we've done so far. So let's go ahead and apply all of our alignments. And let's go back to tools again. And we need to do global registration. Alright. So definitely if you're in a hurry, you can do geometry only, which will be a little bit quicker. As a matter of fact, let's do it this time and just to speed up the process. And I'm going to go ahead and pause it while it's doing this. I'll be right back. And because I did geometry only, it was quite quick. I mean, definitely. There are still some things that need to be done on this as well. If you notice, it might need a little bit of alignment on here. And that's a tough part about this is actually a rotor blade. So it might be easier to, I don't know, maybe scan them without the rotor blades on it. And we're going to find out what this is going to do. So we need to go to our second part of this. So since now we're in tools, we already went through alignment, we want to use some of the fusions. We have 3 different types of fusions. So fast fusion is basically to do a extremely fast resolution, or I'm sorry, extremely fast fusion to be able to give you a preview very quickly. It's not something you want to use in production. It's just enough to find out, hey, I need to find out how many places I need to go over and rescan again because the object doesn't look correct, or I need to go back and do some more scanning on it. And I mean, for what we did and how complex this object is, it's decent, but it's not anywhere near what we need to be because there's going to be a lot of filling in on this, and it's probably going to make it not look too great. So you can actually change a few of these. Let's try a fast fusion by leaving the defaults in there as well. It doesn't take too long here. We're waiting for that to come up. And we have a fusion there. Yeah, I kind of expected some of the double imaging on the rotor blades because I believe when I flipped it over, I believe they moved. A couple of them did. Looks like this one and that one moved. So that's kind of something that you got to look out for on it. I mean, there's a lot of holes in the object that it has to fill in. So I definitely can see, for example, I need to rescan from the bottom, and I need to rescan these sides right here. So I could probably do this all in one scan again to repair it. Just by looking at it, yeah, there is quite a bit of holes in there that it's going to fill in. You know, and again, this is a complex object. You know, people are a little bit easier to fill in on this, so it's not an issue. But when you're doing inanimate objects, solid objects like this, you know, it's going to take a little bit more scanning than just a few scans to be able to get things done. So I'm looking at this, yeah. Alright, our fusion kind of gives us kind of an idea of what it's going to be like, what we're going to have to go back over again. And again, I wouldn't use this as a production scan. And I'm just looking at the rotor blades here, and some of them did okay, some of them didn't. So, we'd have to get a little bit better on it, but at least for a basic tutorial, this is pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off that fast fusion. Let's go ahead and take a look at a sharp fusion. Now, I would always recommend a sharp fusion for doing solid objects. Now, the Eva has a resolution. It has a range between... The Eva itself has a range between... Hold on, let me look at my notes here. Hang on just a second. Alright, so the Eva, the finest resolution is 0.7. So you can set that at maximum. Now you may need to play with this in those ranges to be able to see if your object is something that looks decent for you when you're going to do the fusion. But let's do the best resolution for the Eva. The spider is 0.5. is the minimum. So you can print, the higher you go up, the less, the more it's going to break the object down. It's not going to look correct. It's going to have less detail in it. So 0.7 is the maximum amount you can get out of it. So let's apply it. Now, I don't want to do it by radius. What I want to do it by is I want to make it watertight. So if you're going to be using anything that's 3D printed, you need to have a watertight object to be able to do that. And a watertight object is, to put it on a printer, 3D print it, and that's pretty much, for the most part, what I would be doing with this. Watertight is definitely what you want to do. Now, there's some reasons why you'd want to do manually. Manually can leave pretty much everything open, and then you can manually go through and select which ones to close. Let's say, for example, you do want to have a cylinder with a hole in it, or you do want to have something that has a corner that's missing so you can see inside the section. There may be many different various reasons why, but in this case I'm going to show how to do the watertight, and let's go ahead, and since I need to have all the ones selected I want to do the scan from, so I'm not going to do the fusion, but I'm going to create a sharp fusion from all of the scans selected, and let's go ahead and apply it. And I might come back here after it's done. Okay, so we have a lot of artifacts floating around, and I can see the rotor blades kind of look like giant butter knives in there, but that's alright. This is a quick scan just to try to get this to work anyway, so not horribly bad, but not horribly good either. But for using for demonstration purposes, this is a good start. Alright, so yeah, take a look at it. I see some pretty big artifacts out there, and it's filled in quite a bit of holes on it as well. The rotor blades look horrible. Probably a good way to use the 3D selection tool now, a way to be able to show a tutorial for that, which I think would be good. Alright. Yep. Alright, so now what I want to do is I want to go through a couple of the processing tools in here. I want to show you the small objects filter. Now this is a fusion. You want to use the small object filter on a fusion instead of doing it on the scans. Okay, I would not recommend doing it on the scans, and it would end up taking a considerable amount of time. You want to do these on the fusion. So all of these artifacts, you normally think, oh look, I'm going to have to go through and use the edit tool and delete these manually. No, actually by using the small objects filter. Let's select the option and let's do filter by the threshold or by leave the biggest objects. So the biggest object would be this here as well right off the bat. So anything, that's saying anything else that's not attached, get rid of. And there's even a big one out here too. So let's go ahead and click on this and apply it. And it did. It got rid of quite a bit of them. It did here. So everything else that was not attached. So now at this point, what we want to do, if we were going to clean this up, we could use the 3D selection tool, and we could get rid of some of these artifacts that are in here as well, and then close the holes up again to be able to repair that. So let's take a look at that. So since we want to get rid of these, let's go back to the editor, and let's go ahead and select the eraser, and let's use the 3D selection tool, and you'll see some of these like this right here. This is kind of a big artifact out there. Let's hold down the control key. Actually, this is not going to work because I can't change the size of my mouse. I'm going to do the 2D selection tool here and select this area. Yeah, it looks like you got quite a bit of it. That's good. And I'll probably get rid of a little bit of this. And let's get rid of these right here as well. Yeah, and again, let's get rid of these as well here. These look pretty bad here as well. But see what it did? It actually selected inside and outside of this right here. This is the bad thing about using the 2D selection tool. You want to use the 3D selection tool in this case. But me, I need to, on the second tutorial here, I need to be able to get my mouse with a scroll wheel to work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Control and Alt, and I'm going to unselect these areas that it's selected in here. This is kind of a little bit harder way to do this, but at least it's good practice for it. Almost done here. And we're getting those unselected. This is working here, so let's go ahead and erase those ones that we have selected there. And then now that we got that, let's go ahead and perform. Actually, you know what? Looks like probably could get rid of this one here too. Let's just do one more here. Just for that little bit of touch here. Again, remember this is a basic setup here. This is definitely going to require me to rescan it again. So I'm going to go ahead and go through here. Alright, so let's go back to our tools feature. And what we want to do here is we want to use the feature called hole filling. So what this is the value is whatever the smallest of the hole or the largest of the hole is, it needs to bridge that gap. So instead of going through and trying to close this up manually, this is a little utility, an algorithm to be able to do this. So let's apply. I have it at 20,000. I don't think it needs that high of a value. I think it'll probably do it at 1,000 in this case. And let's apply. And it did. It actually filled in all the holes that it had. It's a watertight object again, it looks like. Yep, I don't see any holes in it. There might be one right here. Is that a texture problem there, or is that a hole there? I think it is a hole. Nope, I think it's okay. It's a little bit overlapping though, but it definitely, we have the object there. So let's span it out here. Alright. Alright, so now that we went over the small objects filter, the hole filling, mesh simplification. The reason why you'd want to do mesh simplification is to be able to cut down on the amount of triangles that's in the object. So when you take a look at this, we don't need it to be really heavy with geometry unless only in some fine details. So let's go through and take a look at maybe this, the wireframe section. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so you can see there's quite a bit of polygons that's made up of this. Now what it's going to do is it's going to try to find the minimum amount or what it can get rid of without losing too much detail. And these are the settings that you can do on it. So let's take a look at this. And let's go ahead and do mesh simplification at this point. Now, the default values are usually fine, pretty much for the most part. Accuracy and remesh. Accuracy would be the most resolution object that you can have. Remesh would actually take a little bit away from it, but it would still be there. So what I generally recommend is always leaving it at accuracy and leaving it at the value of 0.05. Let's go ahead and apply it. And you can see the results here. Give it a few seconds. You can see the differences between when simplifying it. Basically, simplifying it is if you want to publish it to the web, you want to print with it. This is a way you can at least minimize the amount of triangles that's in it and cut down on the size of the file and still have the same resolution with it as well.